being vulnerable with a partner it's hard, especially as men, and just in general, because everybody has their own trauma in their past, how they were brought up, right? And like a lot of things that trigger us sometimes has nothing to do with that person. It's something that happened how we were brought up.
Well, alright now, y'all. Yeah, giddy up now. Hopping on a train to ride. Yeah, I gotta leave my girl behind. And always been a man of pride. Alright now. Yeah. And hold tight to survive.
Welcome to The Marinade, a free-flowing conversation about the creative process with creative people. Each episode, we welcome musicians, actors, comedians, authors, visual artists, filmmakers, anyone who creates art to talk about how and why we make stuff. This is episode 172, and our guest is Boulevards. Boulevards is the nom de plume of Jamil Rashad, whose latest record, Carolina Funk Barn Burner on Tobacco Road, is among my favorites of the year. As Jamil puts it, he did not want to be a carbon copy and make the same record as his favorite influences growing up. The objective was to make a record that was creative, raw, infectious, syncopated bass lines, tight drums, punchy horns that brings a soulful element to the funk. Objective accomplished, y'all. This is as fresh and interesting a record as I have heard in a long time, and I'm so excited that I got to have this conversation. Quick note, for some reason, the last minute or two of my conversation with Jamil did not record. It's not a big deal. All you're going to miss is us thanking each other for the experience and exchanging some love. So don't try to adjust your podcast app. Everything's all good, and we got the gist of the conversation and the spirit of it totally captured. That being announced, everyone, it is my honor to bring you my conversation with Boulevards.
Hey.
Hey, you sound
Going on?
fabulous. You got me?
Yeah, I got you.
Awesome. Man, thank you so much for doing this, dude. I am loving this record, and I'm so excited to talk to you.
Thanks, man. Thanks for having me. Sorry, schedule's been crazy, so
Dude, same. And I'm grateful we were able to make it happen.
yeah,
Yeah, same. And maybe some of that stuff will come up as we talk about it. But man,
yeah,
Carolina Funk, Barn Burner on Tobacco Road, and is just that. It is.
yeah, man. That's just, that raw funk, man.
It's special. I was thinking about this, and I always hesitate when I love a record like this. I always hesitate not to heap too much praise because I don't want to put pressure on somebody. But I was thinking about how there are these kind of generational kind of sounds that come out. There's somebody like a Sturgill Simpson that makes, a record, a series of records that blows my mind. There's every time Kendrick Lamar makes something, it blows my mind, right? Like
Which is
there's
funny because I was listening to him a lot when I was doing this record.
Oh, awesome. Okay.
Yeah,
Yeah, let's get into that then, because to me it's very similar in that, like, the first time I heard it, I went, "Oh shit, this is completely different from anything I've listened to lately." And this is that kind of special generational sort of record. I didn't even know about that part. Can you talk about the
yeah. Well,
Kendrick?
because I remember Kendrick like did a tweet a couple years ago before the big steppers. And I remember he was like, "New flows, new music, new flows coming." Right? Because you know how he's always creative with his flow and then he doesn't rap like everybody. You know what I'm saying? So
Yeah.
I was like, okay, well, I got obviously when I'm writing these songs, have some creative melodies. Obviously, the cadence, the delivery. I don't want to sound like anybody that's out. You know what I'm saying? I want to sound authentic. But I was also listening to Kanye because like I love the way Kanye and Kendrick, approach their records. They change every time, right? They
Mhm.
evolve every time. They're always trying new stuff, experimenting and seeing what sticks. And then if they just don't care. You know what I'm saying? Even the
Yeah.
same with Busta Rhymes' earlier records, right? I would listen like ODB, all these like different creatives, Missy Elliott, is because like, the personality and charisma I feel like needs to shine through, especially with funk music, man. You listen to all the Funkadelic Parliament records. George and those guys, personality is shining through. You know what I'm saying? And that's obviously what
Hmm.
funk is about, the charisma, the attitude, the personality into the songs. And I was really listening to Kendrick and like Kanye and those records, ODB, Bus, and kind of just like how they approach their songs and just not like saying like I'm not rapping, but like just how they approach their songs and like how they're creative with their production. And like I wanted to be able to do that with this record, to make something that was raw and obviously, that translate the live show to wax because that's something I've been trying to do for a while, is to be able to, bring that live show on wax.
Okay, so it's one thing to say all of that. It's another thing to bring it to life. Like that that makes a ton of sense as I listen to the record. It makes a ton of sense to me that that was your approach and those are the people that influenced you. And I'm glad you brought up Busta Rhymes because I think like I was kind of like in high school I listened to a fuck ton of Busta Rhymes, right?
Yeah.
That was those records are all coming out, Disaster Strikes comes out when I'm like 17 or something,
Put
and
your
it
hands
just
where I can see, man. That
oh my
just his
just
videos.
and at that time too, you're still talking about also Outcast, like
Yes.
Aquemini is like
Yep.
98, I think, something like
Yep.
that.
Yep.
So I'm like
Yep.
17 or
Yep.
18, and it just hit me like a lightning bolt. Um, and there are just so many sounds. You mentioned Missy Elliott, like there's all these sounds. All right, so I'm curious about like the sounds that sort of you grew up on, right? Because you kind of had a really special musical education, it sounds like, growing up.
I think that's what helps me a lot of times. Well, not I didn't have a music education. I went to school for art and I got a scholarship for track and field and cross country. But
Mm-hmm.
when it comes to music, my dad worked in radio for 30 some years. He taught communications at Shaw University, it's a HBCU school in Raleigh. So I remember sitting on the lap with him while he's on the air. And that's what I used to do. My dad, the A tracks up. So I
Cool,
mean, he was
cool.
always playing jazz music, Afrobeat, reggae, blues, funk, R&B. So he was always playing these different 80s new wave records. I mean, he was every Sunday morning, me and my sister, my dad would, mop the floor, sweep, and he'll, blast the radio. You know what I'm saying? So
Yeah.
when it comes to my approach with music, though, my first CD I bought though was Nas, I Am album. The I Am album. That was the first album my dad ever took me to the store to go buy. So I think what helps me a lot of times when I approach my music is because I start everybody, a lot of people don't know this. I started out as a rapper. That's what I started out
Oh,
doing
okay.
a long, long time ago. You know what I mean? Like when I wanted to
Yeah.
get it, because everybody wants to be a rapper. So I was like trying to be, a rapper, and trying to perfect that. But then I started, singing and kind of just, having fun with it. So I mean, growing up, man, I mean, I was listening to a lot of hip hop, and then obviously when my dad was playing soul and funk, it was just kind of in the background, right? I would ask him, "What
Mm-hmm.
is this?" You know what I'm saying? I think when I started getting older, I started getting deeper and deeper into soul, into funk. But in my college days, I was in a punk band, hardcore band. I fronted that, screaming. So a lot of that energy comes into the performance, into this record as well, too a little bit of just punk rock vibes, and I mean that just like the attitude and the approach and cadence on certain songs. You know what I'm saying?
Yeah.
Like my town. I mean, you listen to that. I mean, the attitude. It's punk funk.
Yeah.
And
It's a standout on the record for me. It's one of my favorites. I was going to ask you about it.
so yeah, man. I mean, I grew up on hip hop a lot, and I didn't really started learning different some musics when I got to like, college and then post college. I started getting into like everything, and then I really started to study like pop music a lot. I was getting into like just top 40 music. I went in like a top 40 phrase when I was doing all that because I was learning how to songwrite. I was trying to figure out
Mm.
how to song, and I would listen to no lie, like I would listen to Lady Gaga records. Cause her formula was just so so good. Like
Yeah.
it was so good. But funk music and was always played in the house. Jazz was my dad, like is a jazz dude. Miles Davis, Herbie Hancock, Al Jarreau, like Chet Faker. I mean, the list goes on. Sun Ra. I mean, the list. My dad is a jazz whiz. He knows anybody and everybody. So that's what I kind of grew up on. And then, like I said, hip hop. I mean, I used to freestyle with homies. We
Yeah.
record ourselves on a computer like this. We didn't know how to record, so they'd be playing this, beat, and we just be recording like this. Trying to just freestyle, you know what I'm saying, and just having fun, man. So, and, I think it helps me with the way I approach a lot of my songs and my records that having a hip hop background because hip hop is obviously is a lot of, charisma and
Yeah.
personality.
Yeah.
And
Yeah. Yeah.
I want to be able to take that. You don't hear that in a lot of funk and soul music these days. You know, the person. I mean, yeah, there's good singing, good melodies, and all that stuff. But like, I mean, for me, I like personality,
Mm.
and that's why
Mm.
when you listen to Kendrick, he's not just rapping. Like you hear his personality and the charisma. Same with Kanye, Busta, Missy. I mean, I can't even think of anybody that is close to Kendrick. You know what I'm saying? I mean, I guess you got J. Cole, Kanye, Drake,
I,
but
I think Kendrick's the greatest of all time, and
yeah.
that's with all due respect to Nas, who also that I Am record was like it wasn't that was my introduction to hip hop. I
See, that was
Nas's
not me
I
too.
Am, yeah,
When I that was like my first CD I ever bought. I walked in this place called Willie's in Raleigh. I walked in there, got that joint, man, and that was the first
yeah.
record, that I bought, man.
Yeah, it started like a lifelong love affair with the genre. Like I'll
Yeah.
never forget listening to that record for the first time, driving around my pickup truck in country ass Central Florida, listening to that record over and over and not understanding anything he was talking about. It was so far from my existence, but it still hit. It hit in a major way. And then that led me to Illmatic and, then that just, you know, Wu-Tang and all kinds
You
of
know who you
other
know who
stuff.
really hit me hard, man? A lot of people don't know, but Atmosphere. I was,
Mm.
like when I was in college, I was obsessed with Atmosphere, man. I loved his
Interesting.
records, man, because a lot of people don't understand like the Atmosphere can spit. When
Yeah.
you listen to his earlier records, because he was a battle rapper, like kind of like Eminem was, you know what I'm saying? Freestyling, it was like just spitting bars, you know what I mean? And like I will listen to like his earlier stuff, man, like that Love Life. I mean, I got Love Life tattooed because of that, like
No
that
shit.
record. Yeah, I mean, like Atmosphere, like was like a big part of my life in college, man. Yeah, I mean, I wasn't even listening like funk at that point. I was listening to straight either hip hop or like hardcore scream punk music. That's what I was listening to in
Wow.
college. It's crazy, right? I
Yeah,
didn't
it's
leave.
really cool. But I think
Yeah,
that comes through in certain ways with this record, and that comes
yeah,
through, in your music. I love what you said, especially about that, like sort of that attitude, that comes through in your music. That there's just there's a swagger to it, right?
yeah,
There's a swagger to your music, and that comes from sounds like it comes from different places.
yeah,
There's so much I want to talk to you about, but one of the
yeah, dude.
things,
Let's
like
do it.
as a running nerd, I want to talk a little bit about running.
Okay,
And you
yeah.
mentioned cross country earlier, and I know you're a runner. Can you talk about like what impact running has had on your life, on your creativity?
I mean, running, I started running when I was 12 years old,
Mm,
and just like you always kind of compare running to music. Like when people when kids at an age want to start, running, everybody wants to be a sprinter. I wanted to
yeah.
be I realized I wasn't fast enough to be a sprinter, so I moved up to that. I moved up to the half, like the 800, the 800.
Yeah.
Okay. My parents were kind of like, okay, he could be good at this. And then I did cross country in high school just to stay in shape. Because, track and field, if you're a long distance runner, you're staying all year round. You're
Yeah.
running all seasons. You know what I'm saying? So like I'm doing cross country to stay conditioned. And then I started to get good. Like my first race was like a 21 minutes something. Then I started to slowly go down to 18s and like all this stuff. And then as the years passed, 16s, 15s, man. So my parents were like, maybe he can get a scholarship.
15s. Okay.
So started taking it serious, you know, like through sophomore, you started really taking running serious. And my parents thought, I had a talent or something and it got me. But the way it's impacted my life, man, I mean, it's changed my life in so much, but I mean, I never thought I'd be doing marathons. My mom used to always tell me like, you need to be out there running marathons, and this is like, because, when I wasn't sober, I mean, I was partying. I didn't care about running. After I, graduated, like, a lot of people don't know I got kicked off the team because I was a party. So like, I mean, I didn't run for a while, and then like as I got sober, I started running and jogging, because I started to get back to the things that I loved, you know.
Mm.
When I got sober, I started getting back to the things that I love, you know. So I started, falling in love back in it slowly, slowly. And then I met my fiance. She did like Ironmans, have triathlons, and she's a marathoner as well. And I remember when she did the Boston Marathon when it was in October because it was post-COVID. Say because usually in April, but it had it in October. And I'm up there, right? And I'm like, I'm seeing amputees. I'm seeing people autistic running. I'm seeing blind people running. I'm seeing overweight people running. I'm seeing elderly people running. I'm like, I'm a runner. Why am I not out here running, man?
Yeah.
inspired me. I had a month to prepare for one in Raleigh, and I accidentally qualified for the Boston Marathon. But the thing about running, as you know, as a running nerd, man, running will teach you so much about yourself.
Yes.
And I was talking to Duran Jones literally last night. Duran Jones
Mhm.
from Indications,
Yeah, yeah, yeah.
he wants to run a marathon. And I was telling him, man, like a marathon would change your life. I always tell people, man, because it changed mine, man. I mean, you done a marathon, right?
Yeah.
And I mean, you cry at the end, I mean, because
I was
it's
just gonna bring that up. The
I
breakdown at the end is unlike anything that I can
I'm getting
experience
goosebumps.
otherwise.
I'm
Yes,
getting
dude.
goosebumps.
Like to get across that finish line and
Yeah,
like they say the halfway mark is like the 22nd mile or whatever.
yeah, yeah,
And
yeah,
and I remember I was hauling ass. I was on like I got to the halfway mark and I was like, I prepared for this motherfucker. Like
yeah,
I'm
yeah.
I'm on a great pace because I'd run a half marathon the year before. And
Mhm.
so then in 2020, at the beginning of 2020, I ran a full. That's the only one I've run. And the other thing about it, dude, is like there were so many times, so many years that I set out to run a marathon and got hurt or
Mm,
lost the motivation or a tragedy in my family hit or like something stopped me. And so
mm.
that feeling when you finally get across that finish line and you process what you've overcome to get there.
It's a lot of pain and a lot of suffering, man. And it's no joke because I didn't understand how painful a marathon was because I never ran 20. I mean, in college I ran 22 miles on Sundays, but obviously I was 21 years old, 20 years old, running that at like 6 minute pace, just like, whatever. But as I got older, approaching 40, yeah, man, I'm doing this marathon. And I remember I've never felt pain like that last 6 miles, man. I mean, I think I
Yeah,
like
same.
yelled at my, I think my fiance was on her bike. I think I like yelled at her. I was in so much
Yeah.
pain.
You
And then my
start your brain starts to go through all this like Rolodex of shit that
yeah,
I was not prepared for that at all. Like
yeah,
some of the doubts that I have about myself and who I am, what kind of person I am, my
mhm.
morals, my choices. Did
It's
not see that coming those last 6 miles.
yeah. I mean, it's wild, man. And I remember like when I finished that first marathon because my dad loves track and field runner. He still watches it. We still text each other about like the Olympics and all these things every season.
Cool.
And I remember he was around there at the finish line as well as my fiance. And I get to cross the finish line. I'm like, I'm tired, and then I just started bawling. And I like look at my fiance. I'm like, I don't know. I'm like, why am I? And I'm just
Yeah.
like, because it's just such an emotional feat. I don't know about the marathon does something to the chemicals in your brain and in your body when you're going through that 3 hour to 4 hour process of pain and emotion. It's an emotional roller coaster.
Yeah.
As
Yeah.
you know, it's emotional like life, and that's why I think I love the marathon so much because it's a lot like life.
Mm.
From those 26.2 miles, some things can start out really good, then things just
Yeah.
start getting a little bit, tricky. Now you got to
Yeah.
navigate and adjust. Like life, you be prepared, and then sometimes you go through some pain, and then on the other
Mhm.
side, when you finish, it's beautiful. You're done. You know what I'm
Oh my
saying? So
God.
it's taught me so much about life, man. I mean, running and just in general, man. I mean, because I ran competitively with teammates, man. So not doing well and coming back winning championships and just trying to be a better, beating your times, right? And then being other people. I mean, I think that's what a lot of my competitive spirit comes to, even when it comes to this industry, like that running competitiveness, trying to be better, 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 but also trying to be better than me, the last record, trying to always outdo my last record, my last song. You
Yeah.
know, and
Man,
running's the
that's so interesting too, because there's an objective measure to whether or not you beat your last time in a marathon. There's not an objective measure. I mean, maybe you look at numbers, streaming or sales or whatever, tickets, that growing the size of your audience, that kind of thing. But that's the crazy thing about the music world is like there isn't I mean, I think this is the best thing you've done, but like that's pretty subjective, right? And I love the other records. Like I think what you continue to do is up your game, but like that's just one dude's opinion. So
yeah.
I'm interested in how you process that too.
I think. Let me try to process my thoughts. I mean, I think this is obviously my best stuff, but I think my best stuff is still yet
Mm,
to come. You know what I'm saying? I'm still always trying to grow. I think with every record I want to grow, and if I don't grow, then what's the point of doing all this? if I'm not growing with each record. That's what I tell people. Like the main thing is to grow. But I always tell people, I'm like, the biggest thing between the music industry, being an artist and being a runner, is that when you're out there, you just have yourself. It's just you.
Mm.
In the music industry, you have so many people you got to rely on for your success. Your
Mm.
team, label, distribution, PR, manager, your touring bandmates. You got to like as an artist, as a band leader, or whatever. You have to rely on so many people to have their roles in check and be locked in for you to also propel forward. Which
Mm.
in marathon, it's just you out there. You may have a coach, you may have a training plan, but when it's you out there, nobody's doing it for you. Nobody's helping you. It's you. It's just you. You know what I'm saying? And I
Yeah.
think I love that. I love that, man. I love that.
Yeah. Man, that's great. I want to talk about you mentioned recovery and I want to talk about like when I hear the song Who Am I? I think that's probably a good jumping off point to have that conversation. I appreciate you being so open about your sobriety and um can you talk about like I'm someone who has been sober curious for a number of years,
Right,
right?
yeah.
Like and I still drink. I don't really fuck with anything else, but I still drink and I I'm really interested in the decision and then also creatively, how it's impacted you. So like when you made that decision and creatively how it's impacted you.
Well, when I made that decision, the last couple of years, I always knew that I needed help. I just didn't know how, and I think I was afraid. And it's funny. I was talking to my sponsor today about this. I was like, to admit that like I can't drink like a normal person was a blow to me. Like
Mm-mm.
it'd be like realize I can't enjoy drinks and enjoy drugs. I know, but it was like defeating to admit that I had to stop doing all this. And,
Yeah, yeah.
and I was like, I was emotionally like broken, when I was going through a crazy breakup, and that kind of triggered a lot of it. Which is oddly, unfortunately, I was the one that blew it all because I knew I couldn't handle it. And
Mm.
the way I went around it was not the best way around it. And I think that point, I kind of realized like, I have a problem because it's helped my life so much before sobriety, man. Which is I was actually touring more when I was actually partying, which is crazy, man.
That's
But
wild.
I wasn't able to be present.
Mm.
I would drink on the road in the car, the van. I get to the venue, ask for where's the Red Bull at? Where's your beer for sound check? Boom, boom. I have two beers before I go on stage, a shot of whiskey, have whiskey on stage, have Red Bull on stage. That's how I did every night. That was the way I had to get. That was what I had to get through. And now it's totally different now, sharper, locked in, but just emotionally, right? I think one thing about sobriety and recovery, which is really important to me, it shows you how to deal with life. It's a manuscript on how to deal with life and how to
Mm.
navigate through life. And that's what I've been learning is like how to learn how to love, how to learn how to receive love. You know what I'm saying? I mean, if you would have told me 7 years ago when I was out there drinking, and I'm gonna be like opening up a vintage store and putting out a record with New West and like getting engaged and living it out, I would have been like, fuck that, bro. That's that's not for me. But you see how sobriety can change somebody's life, man. And I see so many, men and women that they have more like 20, 30 years and they've, you know, the thing about recovery and sobriety, man, we live in America, right, on a world where some people say people can't change. People can actually change if they want to, if they want to put the work in. It might
Mm.
take them longer, but people can change. People can change, man. I mean, I've seen skinheads, racist dudes, and change. Guys get locked up, come back. I mean, it's for them to be able to put the work in because it's not just the drinking. I'm not gonna try to get in like all the AA program, but it's a lot of work, man. And I realized too that I have to have people hold my hand and show me how. Like I can't do it by myself. I tried doing things by myself. You see how that got me. So I
Mm.
help navigate me through life. Help people make me help give me their experience, their wisdom, help people have people hold my hand through certain situations. Like when I moved out here from Raleigh, like this was a big move for me. Moving from Raleigh, living with another woman in this dope ass house. With her dad. We moved her dad in here from assisted living for an alcoholic that I was scared shitless. I didn't think I could handle that. I was like, I would try to sabotage. I was
A
like,
lot. Sounds like a lot.
it's a lot, man, but I was able to navigate it. One thing I've learned too, man, is just like trying to like go with the flow, you know,
Mm.
which is funny because I went with the flow when I was drinking a lot, but I wasn't pressing a lot of it. I always tell people, yeah, when I went on tour with King Gizzard in Australia, it was fun, but I wish I was more present because I don't really remember a lot of that tour because
Uh,
those guys partying, man. We were partying nonstop, 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 man. But it's taught me a lot, man, and I just hit 7 years, so
nice.
I'm very like, just, grateful, man. But Who Am I is like one of those songs. It's like that moment when you get out of bed and you're about to wash your face and you look in the mirror and you're asking yourself, who am I going to be today?
Mm,
Right? What
mm,
type of, what type of person I am, And I was, through that song, I was obviously talking about a lot of my struggles and with relationships with my mother and relationships with people, or just how to deal with life, because as a human being, nobody's perfect. We all struggle to try to navigate certain things that come up with us. We're not all perfect. And
mm.
sometimes we try to do things ourselves, but sometimes self-will can get us in trouble, as you see in America and politics.
What's going on in politics right now?
Well, we just live in a world where, I try to like, just sit back and just let, the universe do things. You know what I'm saying? As long
Yeah.
as I'm doing the right thing and trying to be a good son, be a good band, leader, being a good friend, being a good fiance, and that's the things building that foundation at home is important to me.
Yeah.
But I never knew that it was that important because I never really had any of that. I think that the biggest thing in sobriety, man, is learning how to receive love and give love. That's like the two things, not just in relationship, but with, family, friends, understanding why people do the things that they do. Because a lot of times when people get upset or when people say things, a lot of it has nothing to do with you. It's
Mm,
their own things, you know what I'm saying? And even with me, when I used, when you dig deeper, because I go to therapy too, man. So I try to get down to like the nitty gritty, man. Like it's funny, man. I never cried before sobriety. I didn't. If I did cry, it was because I wanted something from you, or I'm trying to get out of something, not get arrested. You know what I'm saying?
interesting.
But now, like that, I feel so many. I feel so many emotions as I get older, approach 40. Cry. I cry joy through joy and pain.
Yeah.
And
Man,
which is it's crazy, man. So like I said, I feel a lot more. I feel a lot more, but I deal with the feelings. That's what I actually deal with them.
that's wild because like I can't imagine the guy that I hear on this record not crying, right? Like there's just so much emotion in these songs and in the work that you do. That is really interesting to hear you say.
Yeah, because like I said, the marathon. I mean, I never cried. I mean, like crying, like that's what it is. I mean, that's joy. That's tears of joy, right?
Yeah,
I've
yeah.
never experienced tears of joy ever in my life. When I got the first mix from Adrian Casada from the Black Pumas for What We Live For, I was getting up to go take a leak. I see my Dropbox link. My fiance's in bed. I hear that first thing. I hear those horns swell up. I start busting out crying. I get goosebumps every time I think about it. I'm like, and she was like, "What's wrong?" I'm like, "It just sounds so good." I was just like, I was, and I've never had that with any songs. I mean, I'm talking about people that I love. Records that I listen. I've never had that feeling before, but I think it meant more because it's the amount of work that I put into it,
Yeah.
and the vision that was clear from that song when I got the actual sketch demo skeleton from it, and it came to life. And Adrian came in and swooped it and saved the day with this whole, mixing thing, man. So yeah, sobriety has helped me so much, man. I just try to live, day to day and just keep trying to do the right thing, man. That's the most important thing. But trust
Man.
me, man, I wish, dude, I wish I could drink like a normal person, but I can't.
Well, I hear that a lot. I hear that a lot from folks, that like, and then I also hear sometimes, I think a refreshing thing to hear from people is like, you mentioned that time with King Grizzard, like how some people will, in sobriety, will open up about the fact that, like, yes, there were a lot of lows and it was very difficult, but there were also like, party was pretty fun, and
Yeah,
I
yeah,
think
yeah.
it's helpful to hear that honesty.
Yeah, I mean, I had some fun, Yeah, I mean, I had a lot of fun. I got a lot of stories. I mean, yeah, I mean, a lot of stories. I mean, I had a lot of fun, but I see where that got me though. At the
Mm,
end of the day, you know what I'm saying? It didn't get me anywhere. I didn't have relationships with people. That's one thing I go back on now. So I didn't have meaningful relationships with people. Everything was transactional. You know what I'm saying? When you live in that life, man. Now I have meaningful relationships with people. Like people never invited me to their parties and their weddings. Now when I'm sober, people invited me to the when I'm a groomsman. Like people inviting me to their events in their house. People didn't do that before. I swear to God, people didn't do that stuff before, man. They because they knew
Interesting.
Jamil's coming. He's gonna probably go away for a little bit. He's gonna come drink. He's gonna go away. He's gonna probably come back and like be, crazy, sloppy, or just, start some shit, like I was wild, man. And then, but now like people I have meaningful relationships with people, man. I can open up to people, be vulnerable, and that's the thing too, man. Sobriety, man. Like, are you married?
No. I,
Okay,
I
no.
just I'm just so I'm a week removed from my second breakup in six
Okay,
months,
okay,
and one of those was my partner in life who we were legal domestic partners, so we were
okay.
basically married.
But you know from experience, man, like uh, just being vulnerable with a partner it's hard, especially as men, and just in general, because everybody has their own trauma in their past, how they were brought up, right? And like a lot of things that trigger us sometimes has nothing to do with that person. It's something that
Yeah.
happened how we were brought up. Like I mean, it's mind blowing to me as I get older. I'm thinking about all these things, like the way I react to certain things, and I'm like, oh, that's because of this
Mm-hmm.
relationship with my mom, or this dynamic I had growing up, and now I'm trying to break the cycle and change those behaviors. It's wild, man. But I love sobriety, man. I love recovery. I've seen a lot of guys in the music industry, get sober. I've seen a lot of friends get sober, man. And all I can say when, to anybody that's sober curious, just do it for you. The main thing.
Mm-hmm.
Don't do it for anybody else. Because if you do it for
Mm-hmm.
anybody else, it never turns out well for anybody. So I always say if you want to do it for you. And yeah, just do it for you at the end of the day, man. Don't do it for anybody else.
No, that's great. One of the things that I really dig about you is your whole aesthetic. Like you always look impossibly cool, your fashion sense. I mentioned that breakup, that those breakups. One of the things that I've leaned into in the last like 6 months or so is fashion. Just like being conscious of, when I'm out and about, what I look like and playing dress up for myself, and just having some fun and feeling good. Can you talk about like the sort of your passion for that and what it looks like for you?
It's so funny, because when I was a kid, I thought I was pretty stylish. My mom would always take me shopping. Me and my sister on the weekends would go to like TJ Maxx and Marshalls and go to the mall. Like my superlative in my yearbook was biggest shopper. That was my superlative. Like my senior year was biggest. I wanted to get like best athlete because I was the best athlete. At that time they gave me some football player, man. I'm like, yo, like, come on, man. I like went to states, all this. I'm the only like person from this team, whatever. Anyways, but
Yeah.
but yeah, man. So I used to always be into fashion. I used to always draw clothes.
Hmm.
And it's funny. I had like when I was a kid. I used to draw shoes and send them to Nike. I was so naive. I thought Nike was going to design my stuff, and I
Yeah.
asked right back. I was always a hustler too. You know what I'm saying? Like I always found ways to how to like people to hear me or see me. And I kept going. I kept drawing, and I had this. It's funny because it's funny that I'm opening up a vintage store now because my first clothing line that I wanted to start was called UK Vintage. It was unique clothing, but K with the I was young, and
Yeah.
like
Yeah.
how it's manifested 30 something years later into me
Yeah.
opening up a store. But my dad has always been an inspiration.
Hmm.
Black men in the 60s and 70s, James, Isaac, Curtis, um, back in the day, man, like obviously George, Funkadelic Parliament, all those cats and an inspiration. But my dad's probably the biggest. He's always wearing denim. My dad was a cool cat. He's a jazz cat, man. If you meet jazz cats are they just have a certain coolness about him. He's just like a smooth
Hmm.
Philly cat from North Philly. That's just smooth, man. And he's the biggest inspiration probably behind like the way I dress. But the way I dress is nothing new. I try to just stay comfortable, man. Denim is what I love
Hmm.
because like some people wear all black. Like for me, denim is what's my thing, is what I feel comfortable in and what I feel loose in. But I've always been into fashion, man. I've always been a collector of pieces, timeless pieces. I've always felt that every man should have a suit. Every man should have a leather jacket. Every man should have a denim jacket. Certain things every man should have in their closet because they're
I got
timeless.
them all. I'm doing
Because
good. I got all three.
yeah, because they're timeless pieces that never go out of style, right?
Yeah, yeah.
They go, I mean, I wore cowboy boots, I've been in the game for a minute, man. I've always thought like seeing a white man or a black man, and when I was a kid, black man, I thought that was just so like a thing of power. I don't know. I just thought it was so masculine, like a guy walking with a cowboy and like cowboy, like walking like with his wife or whatever. I thought that was like I gotta get. That's what I wanted. You know what I'm saying? And
Yeah.
now I got my cowboy boots. I got so many of them, and I'm rocking them. I'm feeling good in them. You know what I'm saying? And
Yeah, yeah.
yeah, fashion. I mean, style is always something that's been important. I mean, how I present myself. I read somewhere. I can't remember. It was like years ago in GQ, and it was like the most successful people are the ones that dress the more consistently. And they like listed all these people like JFK, Muhammad Ali, Martin Luther King, like all these people they like list like a list. And I was like, so I figured out what works for me, how I present myself in the world, and it's got me some places. It's put me in some rooms and put me with some cool people. Got me here. You know what I'm
Mhm.
saying? So, so yeah, man. I just try to dress what's comfortable, man, and just do what feels good.
Man,
At
that's
the end of
great.
the day, I try not to overthink a lot of stuff what I put on and how I present myself. If it fits good, if it's cut right, I'm gonna wear it.
Man,
If it looks good
awesome.
on me, I'm gonna wear it. That's the end
Yeah.
of the yeah. If I try something on, I'm like, oh, this is dope. I'm gonna wear it.
I love that. That specific attitude is something that I've been working on. Like the not doing it for sort of to set an expectation to fit somebody else's expectations, right?
Mhm.
Like, do I feel good? Do I feel like I look good? Do I feel physically
Exactly.
feel good? That's all I really need, right?
Yeah. That's all you need, man. Like you look in the mirror before you go out, be like, yo, I look fly, dope.
Yeah. Yeah.
You know what I'm saying? There's
Yeah.
nothing to it. I look fly, I look dope. Let me, so yeah, man, it's that's always been an important thing to me. Yeah,
That's
style.
great. And we usually, this has been such a delight, dude. We usually end on what you're getting down on. So that's the art that has you fired up at the moment. That could be a painting you saw recently, could be a book you're reading, some music you're listening to. Like, what are you fired up about right now?
It's funny, man, because I've already started writing the new stuff.
Nice.
Like I think the next approach is like making it more of a soul record. Still have the funk in there, but more soul. So I've been listening to a lot of Isaac. A lot of Isaac. The people that I've been, the people that I mean, obviously I still listen to rare 45 funk records. I still listen to that. But the people that are new, I mean, I like Glass Beams a lot. Like they're like kind of like Karangapan, but like
Mm,
funkier and better. They're like this Australian band that has like Indian descent. Um, yeah,
cool.
they're blowing up, man. They wear like these diamond mask. I keep looking, yeah,
Cool.
they're dope, they're dope, man. But obviously Kendrick, you
Yeah.
know, I listen to Kendrick. I always listen to Kanye's records, but for the most part, I've been listening to like a lot of Isaac and a lot of Al lately.
Cool.
Digging deep in those discographies. Yeah.
So those songs are coming together now. The next record songs are coming together.
Yeah, man. I mean, I'm in this experimental phase, so
Cool.
it's like seeing what works, seeing what sticks. I'm working with, some different people and just kind of figuring out what sticks. 'Cause I have like a little setup here where I can kind of experiment myself and see what works and see what doesn't work. And I send them the skeletons, so that's always the fun part, man. So you start out writing some sketches and seeing what happens, man. But yeah, I'm already in the process of it, man. Like, but after you put a record out, man, it's like a relief, and now you work on it. You put out, it's the next thing now. It's the next
Yeah.
thing. It's the next
Well,
thing.
I can relate to that in so many ways. I mean, same thing with a podcast episode or a piece that I've some other piece I've written. I'm always like, all right, really grateful for that, proud of it. It's why I suck at promotion. Cause like, you know what I mean? Like, I know I'm supposed to promote the thing, that I just made, but I'm like, all right, what's the next thing? What's the next thing? Right? How am I going to do my research for the Boulevards interview? Like, what approach am I going to take to that conversation? Those kinds of things, like that
Same
next
with
thing
the
and that next
marathon.
thing and next thing. Yeah.
Yeah, same thing with a marathon. I mean, like, even, no matter if it's a good or bad marathon, man, it's like, okay, on to the next. I did my best. I did what I could do with the elements, the weather, my nutrition. I can't do. I did what I could. On to the next race, the
Yeah.
next training cycle, man. So that record's out. I'm glad people are digging it, and I put a lot of work into it. I work with a lot of really great people, it's a dope cast of people that help, help me bring my vision to life. So
Dude, it turned out incredibly. I mean, it's one of those that I feel confident I'll be listening to 10, 15 years from now, 20 years from now, and continuing to go back to. Boulevards, y'all. Thank you so much, Jamil. Thank all of you for listening. Boulevards.band for all things Boulevards. Give Carolina Funk Barn Burner on Tobacco Road a spin, y'all. It is so damn good. MarinadePodcast.com for all things The Marinade. Follow us on all the things. Subscribe and give us a 5-star rating on your podcast app. Tell a friend about the show. These are all free ways to support The Marinade. Go do that right now while you're listening, please. It makes a big difference for us and costs so little of your time and energy. Also, please go follow Life's Greatest Hits on Instagram. That is my new show that you're going to want to get updates on. It's with my dear friend Jordan Foley. I am thrilled to announce that the first episode is available wherever you consume podcasts. Make sure to subscribe on your podcast app so you don't miss a thing. If you really like what we're doing here on The Marinade, please consider joining our Patreon community. For just $2 a month, you gain access to Patreon exclusive content like our show Jason's Journey, where I talk about the moments that shape my creative life and provide a window into the process of making The Marinade. One of the best days of the month for me is recording What We're Getting Down On with my dear friend, the brilliant and hilarious Peter Haroldson. That's about the art that has us fired up at the moment. Y'all, you can now try a free trial of Patreon to see if you like it. No pressure. Try it for 7 days. Set a reminder on your phone in case you want to cancel, and keep going if you dig it. If you want to support the show financially, but you don't want to commit to a monthly subscription, I totally get that. You can Venmo or PayPal us. It's just at The Marinade, and all the money goes right back into the making of the show. We got to cover Bonnaroo this summer because of the generosity of our Patreon patrons, and I'm just so grateful for everybody who is able to contribute in that way. But above all, I'm thankful that you listen. Thank you for listening. Thank you for spreading the word about The Marinade. Until next time, go out and create something. Cheers, y'all.